My name is Susan Reynolds, and my son is Ian, and he was treated at Womack Army Hospital at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and actually we saw a smaller clinic on post called Pope Army Airfield Clinic. Ian had positional plagiocephaly. I became preeclamptic, so I had him early, and then we noticed about the age of 4 weeks a flattening in the back of his head because he just enjoys sleeping on his back. So we then PCS'd, which is a permanent change of station, from Nebraska to North Carolina, and we saw a new facility there, a new doctor, where we were told that Ian would need to wait until he was a year old before we could start helmet treatment with him, that it would eventually self-correct and he would be okay. We went through different kinds of treatments where we had to do tummy time with him, or put him on their tummies down so they can not have that issue. He also had x-rays done to make sure that there wasn't anything wrong with his skull, that there was no breaks or fractures or anything that we might be missing. And so he was seen there at Womack Army Hospital. And then, around the 16th of April, actually, we ended up losing our house to a rental home to the tornadoes that came through Fayetteville. And then my husband deployed for Afghanistan. So sadly, I did not get to advocate as much for my little boy at that moment because we were just trying to find a roof to put over our head, in all honesty. But I did get those x-rays done, and I started to push forward with it. And right around that time was when Ian started to have chronic ear infections. I have now discovered that after the helmet, it was because he was so flat back here on this side of his head that the skull was actually pushing down on that eustachian tube, so he wasn't getting proper drainage, and he was developing chronic ear infections. But once 1 month into that helmet, everything was changed. The issue had cleared up because the head just rounded out just enough to help take that pressure off that eustachian tube. We saw a wonderful pediatric neurologist, and his name is escaping me at this moment for some reason. I'm so sorry about that. In Cary, North Carolina, and he recommended that we do try the orthotic device, and then, of course, told me and my husband that the devices are not covered by Tricare, which is our health insurance. It was right around that time, though, that I decided that I was mad about the entire situation of not having correct information presented to me. Ian should not have waited until he was a year before he got the consult to see a pediatric neurologist. He should have seen one when he was 6 months old. He actually should have been in his helmet when he was 6 months old. So the fact that I had misinformation, miseducation on this issue being presented to me as a parent, as a new parent, under stress of my husband being in Afghanistan, our house being hit by a tornado, I realized that something had to change, that other military families would go through the same situation. They would be given misinformation, believe it, and potentially not get the helmet for their child because of the cost. And I just disagree with that. I think there's something wrong. Our children should be, no matter if their father or mother is active duty military or not, our children should be afforded the best health care, preventative health care, right away. But I decided to get just feisty enough to make a change for military families. So that's why I'm here, and I'm hoping to make that change for them. It is the Tricare for Kids Act, and this legislation actually would bring together a group of people, I guess, lack of better terms, just a committee of people to start finding the gaps in our Tricare coverage. It is friendly. Please don't get me wrong. I love Tricare to death. But it needs to be tweaked in places to be more effective for preventative care for our children. And there are just some things that fall through the cracks, like ABA therapy for children with autism, the helmets, for example, supplements for children who need feeding tubes, cooling vests are another example of where we have some cracks. And I think that Tricare is willing to make this change. I just think people don't know how to make this change, which is what this committee will recommend, and then we will slowly see it implemented. And that is something that I will work on until it is changed, in all honesty. So I have a feeling I'll be doing this for the next few years, is working on this Tricare for Kids legislation to try to make sure that we get the right change and help our children out.